everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for a special interactive online event, Meet the Artists, for a special one-of-a-kind film that we just released from Bridge called America, You're Beautiful. It is my honor to be joined by all of the artists that we collaborated with on this project, and you'll get to hear from each of them tonight. In the comment section, either on Facebook or YouTube, you could submit questions, and we would love to hear from you and get some topics of discussion. First, I'd like to give you a little of a breakdown on who we are in case you're hearing Bridge for the first time. We are a professional vocal chamber ensemble based in the greater Washington-Baltimore corridor and specializing in new works for voices. We are collaboratively led by my esteemed colleagues, Crossley Hahn, Alan Leno, Gilbert Spencer, there you are, and myself. We pride ourselves on being genre-defying in the music we perform and mission-driven in the projects we choose to pursue. We're dedicated to collaboration with local artists, educators, and community leaders to create art that makes a difference. Over the course of this event, you'll have the chance to hear from each of us at Bridge, but now it is my honor to introduce the artist at the heart of this project and tonight's moderator, poet Nina Bruton.
Hey everyone. Good evening. It's so good to see you guys again.
You too,
Nina.
I miss you.
Yeah.
I know we're spending so much time with each other on these Zoom events for so many months, and now that the film is out, we miss hanging out.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I thank you for first of all, for your time here tonight and for just putting together always such a wonderful community that you joined together here between myself, my community, yours, and also that of the Poet Life. So I thank you for all of your hard work. Honestly, it's an honor to be a part of your vision. Let's see. So yeah, and we have our guy, Christophe, who's going to join us. Are you? Good evening.
Hey everybody.
It is, again, this is Christophe Jenkins from The Poet Life, and I came to know Christophe years ago after one of his events, Fighting Cancer with Poetry. The Poet Life is a 501c3 organization that uses poetry and spoken word and the performing arts to really get people into the life of the poet, right? We use poetry to tap into youth groups throughout DC and beyond. And so actually, don't go far, Bridge, because one of the things that we really have to do is tap into how you, Christophe, came to partner with Bridge to come together. And here we are, here we are now.
Yeah.
So tell a came to be?
Well, so we met Christophe similarly through a great event for social justice and a mission-driven event in 2020, January 2020, so right before the pandemic. Bridge put on a live concert performances of The Little Match Girl Passion, by David Lang, and that work tells a story of a young girl out in the cold on New Year's Eve. We performed it during the winter months in January, and it tells the story of a little girl out in the cold on New Year's Eve trying to sell matches to survive. She is ignored by the passersby and eventually dies. Cheery story.
Spoiler alert, Alan.
But the work is incredibly powerful because people who experience it, both performers and listeners, they're challenged directly to do better and to ask themselves what they could do to be better neighbors, to be better than the crowd that let the little girl die. And so this message resonated strongly with a mission, and so we partnered with homelessness organizations in the area. One of them being Miriam's Kitchen, which is focused on ending chronic homelessness, and that organization is something Christophe and the Poet Life have supported in the past, and so that's how we met for the first time. And Christophe joined us in this effort, and it was a benefit concert that raised awareness for the issue and solutions for ending homelessness. And Christophe and the Poet Life paired us up with one of their poets, Church to Poet, and he actually finished that live performance. So we performed the full Little Match Girl work, and then it ended with spoken word. And the music ends very delicately and strikes a really somber note. And then out of this kind of deep darkness, it just flowed right into one of the spoken word artists. And that partnership was incredible because the poet just really brought to the foreground, after reflecting on these issues for 30 minutes, it really just took it head on and gave voice and gave richness and depth to the message we were trying to say. So that's how this relationship started. Then later that year, the summer happened, summer of 2020, and George Floyd was murdered, and Bridge, as many arts organizations did, just huddled up, and we wanted to do our part to contribute.
Yeah, and we wanted to do it in a way that that sort of invited an open space for an artist. We sat in silence for a while as a group instead of responding right away, and that was not for lack of having thoughts. We definitely had thoughts, but we decided in that time it was sort of a time to listen and ruminate and reflect, and then we decided, well, you know what? Let's amplify the voice of a Black artist and give him or her a platform, a beautiful platform in which to say what that person wanted or needed to say. So that's why we reached out to Christophe again.
Yeah, and so our when we reached out to Christophe, and really it was a blank canvas. We were like, Christophe, the partnership was so effective last time, and we knew that you could help us help guide and develop a vision. We didn't really have a vision. We had an idea, and so you helped us flesh that out.
Yeah, I was so glad to be able to do that for you and with you. It was really exciting to receive the call again. I remember the first time we worked together. Before, it was like a match made in heaven. I was like, oh, we get to do this again. But on this level, right? On this topic, in this movement. And I said, this is going to be perfect. And when you all explained to me why, right? You said, we want to listen. We want to provide a platform and lend an open ear. And I said, man, that's so selfless, and what an ally is necessary for, and we really appreciate that. And so when I was given the mission and the challenge to provide a spoken word artist, to provide a voice, I thought of Nina Bruton, because that's who she is. Her company is We Be the Light, right? And in everything she does, she makes sure that she is a light in her presentation. And so Poet Life as a company, we also have a 501c3, which is Poet Life Academy, where we teach youth how to use poetry in the arts to express themselves, right? And so it was just so perfect, and it was perfect timing, is because I was also trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? Right. And so when you all called, it was just perfect timing. And I just felt that, like, okay, that's a sign from God that here's your vehicle right here. And so I was really appreciative of that.
That's really great, Christophe. And one thing that you said is that, even you kind of found yourself taken back, like, what do I do? And I know that even as a Black woman, I found myself silent for months after not just the murder of George Floyd, but we had just learned of the previous murder of Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. So there were all these things that within a few weeks in the month of May just hit one behind the other. Now, this is stuff that we've been dealing with our entire lives. But something about this summer, something about this chain of events that really impacted not just me personally and you all, but clearly the world, and created, it's like this new flame was lit. There was a new spark that brought about a new fire that has not gone out. And while I think at first everyone was kind of, like stuck, I know even my niece Devin, who served as production assistant on set with us, texted me one day and was like, "Auntie, I want to go out and protest in Norfolk, but Mom won't let me," And I was like, "Hold on," right? Everyone has to. I tried to get her to step back and kind of take a look at what she's feeling and really give it thought before she hops out into the streets, because not everyone's role in a war is on the front line, right? So I think that is important. I like that everyone took some time to step back and say, okay, what can I do? What do I have? And what is my purpose in this ongoing effort to bring about equality and to magnify the voices of Black Americans? And so I want to ask you all now, excuse me, with moving forward and having these conversations, how has it impacted you just on the surface level? We're going to get deeper into exactly how it has, but once we started to collaborate and the ideas started flowing, how did you, I guess I should say, how did that open up your minds as you continue to learn more throughout this process? And that is for any of you here.
That's actually that's an excellent question. And I want to make sure that we have our other main collaborator in this project with us. He has been absent so far. We were just waiting to introduce you, Scott. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is Scott Hannah Weir, who was the composer of all of the music in the program. I'm sorry, people. I'm this one. This is Scott. Where is he? There he is. This is Scott.
I was Scott the whole time, I promise.
He was Scott the whole time, in fact. He's joining us from all the way in California. Welcome, Scott, to the discussion, because I want you to be able to be involved and weigh in on these as well. But Nina, to your question. Scott, why don't you start?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, first of all, it was just an incredible opportunity to get to be a part of this project. Something that I try to do in my work, I'm a conductor and a composer, and so I try to think about ways that I can use that field to work for justice and work for equality. And so, I'm always trying to look for opportunities to be able to do something, and in the way that I do my job and do my art. And so this was a really special opportunity, because I think a lot of times composers, we just, sort of go and find words that exist in the world. I love poetry, but normally we're finding poetry that's already written and has sort of already been there. And this project was really different, because it was really about trying to amplify what Nina wanted to say, what she wanted to bring out through her poetry. And so I think for me, that created a totally different creative process than like what I would have imagined composing for Bridge would have been like when we first got started. Because when I found out we're going to do this collaboration with Nina, I was like, well, this is amazing and a dream. Like, I'm so excited to work with a poet collaboratively, to be able to go back and forth with how the music is working. And so I'm really excited about this prospect. And then what was so cool is that it became such a more collaborative process than I think I ever would have thought it would have. Nina you would send us like drafts of here's where I am on the poet, right? Like on the poem. And I'd be like, okay, let me go like mash some buttons and some keys and see what I can come up with. And for me, it really was less of a like we knew from the beginning that we weren't trying to make a choral piece out of your words. We were trying to make a choral piece to support and amplify your words. And that's a totally different kind of task than being like, okay, Nina said, "We be the light." Now I'm going to set that and all the choir is going to sing it. Like that wasn't what we were trying to do. And I think it was so cool to have, like, I was listening to your recordings all the time and like playing stuff on the piano, trying to figure out what made it feel like it came alive, listening to the way that even in your first recordings that were just demos, how you were pacing it, what kind of energy was involved in the way that Nina was saying these words. And so I'm really just trying to bring them to life as much as possible. And so it really became like film scoring even before there was a film, that I was trying to find a way to get at the essence of what Nina was saying and to just really find a way to have something meaningful behind it that would bring it to life even more than her just reciting it, which was a tall order because her recitation of the poem is just unbelievable. So I mean, I think it was a really humbling experience for me, and I was just so excited to see it come to life. One funny thing about it was that, as everyone on this call knows, is that to sort of give us an idea of what that was sounding like, I was singing like the score as we went along, just sort of recording myself on all of the parts, which worked well when it was low, and the higher it got, the more suspect.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I listened to this.
It was so beautiful.
And it was so beautiful. I was like, you don't need a soprano. Like, I'll chill. You can sing this whole thing, Scott.
No. See, it was proof that it's like always better together. Because I mean, it sounded fine, even like fine, you know, when I had recorded it and with Nina's first take. But then to see that transition when we got Nina's final version and when Bridge then recorded it, and like that was already more than I would have ever imagined it would be. And then it went on to the film, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm a part of this. I'm just so lucky to have like even this small role in bringing this to life. So that was a real treat for sure. Yeah.
Well, we wish you could have been with us, Scott, for the filming. We missed you.
Yeah,
well, that's
definitely.
okay. I photoshopped myself in later, so it was all good.
We really need to share that final group photo online. Like, we really do. Because Scott's looking dapper, for sure.
I think to Nina's original question, I think that like the way that this sort of affected all of our thinking coming out of June 2020, responding to just the absolute outburst of protesting and anger and sadness around the murder of George Floyd, was that I know for one of the first times in my life, it really felt like white people and artists really understood that it was time to shut up and listen. And I think that as singers, people who use our voices for our living, that's a pretty unique challenge. And it's not something we spend a lot of time thinking about, like how to be really quiet and not, use our voices to affect change and not use our voices to express ourselves. But, the message that we were receiving was just listen to us. Please listen. And it is time for you to take a seat. And I think that's really where the inspiration for this project came from for all of us, was like, how do we listen effectively? And how do we listen with purpose? And that's sort of where this idea of like a wordless score came from, to support rather than to take Nina's words and make them our own, which is not really appropriate. And yeah, so that was, I think for me and those of us at Bridge, that was really the big like burning inspiration for us to try to pursue this project together in the collaborative way that we worked.
Yeah, and personally, because of Nina, the way your work manifested itself, really what it is a portrait of you. We talk about this movement and the Black community very broadly, right? But within that community, you're all individuals, and so to hear your perspective that intimately and through poetry where you have reflected and chosen your words so carefully, and have given your perspective that isn't like every other Black person's, right? Even though we're all kind of pulling the same direction, and they're generally under the same umbrella, but to kind of live in your words and in your thoughts for that long, it makes me, it brought that sense of awareness to me, that the type of work that's necessary is really deep work, right? It's not just, okay, I support the movement. Let me put up a Black background cover photo, right?
Picture.
Change the Black to a Black background, right?
Which we did, but still, like
it is the close work, getting to know and making these connections on a deep level to become allies. I think that is I think that's the least we could do towards that effort.
Did you ever find that any parts hit you, or that you had any, because one of the things that I talk about in the piece are the blind spots, right? The light, we be the light. That's part of what my general mission is to let people know that we are light. And one of the things that light does is it exposes blind spots, right? And it casts away shadows. It drives out shadows. So I know that even in my own writing and in my own experience, I have my own blind spots, right? That where I've had to check myself and check my heart as it pertains to how I even see, like you say, we're very nuanced as individuals, right? And as a people. So I've even had to check myself in the way that I think about people and view people within my world. And so were there any moments throughout this where, and not even that I'm asking you to, expose your heart at this moment, but were there moments where you had to step back like, oh shoot, I still think X, Y, and Z, or I still feel, you see what I'm saying? For anyone. And if not, that's okay, because it's an ongoing effort, for real. No?
Anyone want to?
No one wants to.
Okay, sure. I mean, I spent a lot of time with your words, Nina, trying to internalize them, and I mean, I think like one of the things that it's so easy, I think, to sometimes put these things in terms of like, right and wrong and black and white, to use a really terrible metaphor, that it's like on and off in the sense of what like oppression and racism is in America. And I think that the one of the things that I walked away from your poem with, and that still resonates with me, is that it's not a casting off of America. It's not like I'm done with you. Where have you been for me? Yeah. Why don't you care? But it's like you do care, and at the heart of you is greatness, and tragedy and ugliness, and like it's complex, and that there are these ideals that America and like all of us who live in America can aspire to be and to continue to improve ourselves. And I think it's like an incredible humanizing way to look at a country that really inspires people, but fails to live up to its promises, like you say. So in the poem, and I mean, I think that what's so amazing about the way that you said it in your poem for me was that all of this hurt and suffering can happen historically, in the present, in the future, and that you still want to come to America and ask it to do its best, and believe in it. And that's such a call, I think, for me to say, where is my role in making America the America it can be.
Yeah.
And not turning a blind eye to the America it is. I mean, when I think about the, January 6th insurrection and people saying like, this is not America, this is not who we are, I'm like,
but yeah,
it is this, it's been hundreds of years, and that if we just say it's bad and we should do better and that's not our America, we're ignoring the work we have to do. And so I think that was something that really resonated for me in the way that you described it, and that I thought a lot about in the project.
That's good. That's good. And you put that very well, Scott. I thank you. Did anyone else want to add while I do this? Okay, Crossley, before she speaks, you all, look, if you are here watching, thank you again for being here. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to put them in the chat. If you have comments, we'll take all of that. We want you to be part of this conversation. And then once we leave here, we hope that you will carry the conversation with you as you go forward. Because again, we are truly in this thing together, and we have to create the change we want to see. We hear it all the time, but it really is up to us. Go ahead, Crossley.
Yeah, just speaking more to Scott's point, I just like everything you said was pretty much exactly what I was thinking. There's so much that exists in nuance, like you said, Nina, and in the gray area. And for me, it was really important that this project, to use a phrase that's been used often recently, reaches across the aisle. I wanted to do something that would reach everyone, and people wouldn't just immediately turn it off if it wasn't their politics or whatever. And I think, Nina, you have done that so perfectly. Because you have no problem lauding America for its beauty and its promises and the things that are wonderful about it, but you're also going to keep it real. And I think that that's what every citizen in America needs to do right now. And that goes with your point, Scott. And I think that this piece can reach all sorts of people on both sides of the aisle and in cities and in rural areas. And I think that there's just truth to your words. We be the light. And that transcends party lines. It transcends any of that kind of BS type stuff. So it was just, you were perfect.
Thank you. And just so we're clear, when everyone, I want to make it plain what it means for me to be light. And one of those things, there are three things that I really keep in mind when I talk to people about being light in the world. And one is that it creates a safe space. And I mentioned this in some of our Zoom videos, and we use it in our trailers and teasers and whatnot. But for everyone that's here tonight, light creates a safe space, right? When we think about a child, when we're growing up and there's a storm outside, or we're afraid of the monsters under our beds, or whatever the case, a nightlight can help just create just that little bit of light, right? Can create the safe space that we need, and to be comforted. And light exposes, as I mentioned earlier, those blind spots and the shadows that we kind of have lingering around in our minds. And then it is a lamp to our path going forward. There are many, many uses of light, as we know. But if we first don't have the same safe space, then the conversations are for naught, right? It doesn't make sense for me to come here kicking and shooting and screaming and fighting if I want to be a part of this country that I am a part of. If I want us to be better, then I have to be able to provide the space to give people the safety to do the work that they need to do that may be uncomfortable. We do have comments in question from Margaret Spencer. In many collaborative projects, it's hard to find the point where you say, that's it, we're done, especially in something as sensitive and close to the surface for everyone. How do you know when you're ready to move from creation to recording? Ooh, I guess that's kind of for me, right? That's a really good question. And that leads to my inspiration, if I can go ahead and put that in there now, kind of how I came to build this thing. one, Ray Charles, America the Beautiful is what came to my heart. There are many renditions of America the Beautiful, but one of the things that that stood out to me about that particular rendition is the fact that he starts out says, America, oh beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife. So he went directly into, whereas the original words are, oh beautiful first, it starts out talking about how beautiful America is. He went straight to our veterans, like, hey, there are people here who have been fighting, and these are the ones that I want to highlight first. And so W.E.B. Du Bois spoke of double consciousness of the Black American, that being we're not just an American, but we are Black. And here I am as a Black woman in America, I'm also a veteran. And so that rendition spoke to me as a veteran of the United States Air Force that, and I remember struggling with that when I was enlisted, like, how am I here in this, in so many Black people in this country have fought and have battled within themselves. Like, I want to fight for this country, or I want to stand as a patriot, right? People have taken and perverted that word as well. But I believe in our country and I want to fight for it. But we come home and there's joblessness, there's, drug use, there's so much wrong. And so that is really where my mind started as far as writing the piece. Now, Margaret, to your question, from there, I just started building this vision of how I see America. And then, however, and we'll get to the however in a little bit, because that's, as my husband likes to say, the moment where I kept waiting for her to like throw over the table, like toss the table, and then it happened with that. But then at the end, again, like Scott was saying earlier, I didn't want to leave it at this, shaking my fist at America. I wanted to leave it at, but I love you and I know that we can do better. And that's where, again, my journey of being light in the world really, really hits. That's where my purpose is in life in general. And so I knew that after I knew that I was at the end, and okay, this is where I have to stop writing, and that it was done once I got to not the end of the story, but the new beginning is what I felt like I ended with. And that's what I'd hoped that I was able to end with the declaration, we be the light on the path forward to the America of our best and brightest imaginations. And so that was when I just threw it down and said, oh, wow, I think it's done. I think this is it. I think I've told what I needed to tell. And there was lots of prayer. Lots of tears, and unexpected tears, things that I honestly didn't even think would hit me the way that they did. If anyone has anything to add.
So to Margaret's question about how do you, especially in a collaborative project, when you face disagreements or like how do you know you're ready to keep going, that kind of thing. I think kind of zooming out, we started off the project from a place of wanting to step back, right, and amplify a Black artist that wasn't a part of our organization. I hope that the takeaway, I'd like to think that we would operate this way and we would have under any circumstances, but because of we were in the middle of Black Lives Matter movement and we knew things were sensitive, right, and it was a sensitive topic, so we were, we were on our best behavior, so to speak. But I hope that us and all organizations that are making these efforts would approach all their work that way. It could have at any point been, well, this is our project and we kind of want to steer it this direction, but we were intentionally trying to, support your vision, and we had some back and forth in that, but it came from a place of wanting to collaborate, right? Not wanting to just kind of hire you to do some work, right? So I hope, I think coming from that mindset helped us to go from project development to laying it down and getting through all of the back and forth of ideas is really investing in collaboration and valuing what every artist had to say. So include definitely Nina and Christophe, but like everybody part of the team throughout the process had a voice. And so I think everybody felt heard and valued. So that was the key to getting it all the way to the finish line. But I will say we did have, we kept extending the deadline. So how did we get to the finish line? We kept moving the finish line.
That's a good point.
You know, the original goal was to release it in October. So that was helpful too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of, go ahead, Nina.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of that what had to do with the fact that we were doing all of this remotely, which was something that was a part of the distance between us physically, with Scott all the way in California and you several hours away in Virginia, Nina, but also due to collaborating in the middle of a pandemic, which really changed the workflow quite a bit. So whereas we would have, had we gone back and done this in the exact right way that normal people that are used to making films would have done, we might have gone, okay, so finish the poetry, finish the score, and then record the poem, then like on set, and then do the vocal recording. We sort of did it in a different order based on what was available at the time and what we could get done. And I think the finished product is brilliant. But we definitely were moving from creation to recording in layers, sort of staggered throughout the process, and meeting up with each other in the middle of those different steps, often through the process. So it was, to kind of what Alan said, we just kept moving the deadline. That's how we did it.
And I'm glad that you all brought that point up, that there was an original goal. And so Margaret, I kind of held us up a little bit because the writing wasn't so easy. And then the recording, again, it would have been ideal for us to get in the studio together, right? And to record the thing and to collaborate in real space, in real time, but that didn't happen. And so I would just like to take this moment to shout out Jacob for being an amazing coach, okay, and helping me to record here from my home studio. And so he helped me out a great deal. We had what we called sandbox recordings here and there to help me, not just with the words, because the words were there, but to really be able to, he really helped me find space to voice the words and to really feel them. You know, a lot of times what happens with writers is we put things down and then we walk away from them, but there's more to do, right? A lot of we don't always initially go right back into it. And so to feel it and begin to record it was a whole other process that emotionally I had to prepare for. So Jacob, thank you.
It was my honor, and I think you hit that right on the head when you talk about the emotional work of doing that, because you and I remember in Zoom meetings that were recorded but will never be seen by the public, we had some emotional moments in working with that text, because it's so real and so visceral, and the imagery that it conjures up for both of us was pretty incredibly emotional. So
absolutely. Y'all, please, if you are watching this, we encourage you to share this live on your Facebook. There are quite a few of you here from Facebook, so please share this live. Invite people over to watch. Of course, it will be available to watch afterwards, but we'd love to have you all engaged here and to have you part of this conversation out of the gate. There's so much more that we have to discuss. And so, of course, leave your questions and your comments here in the chat. We'd love to hear from you all. If you have a project already, if you have not, shame on you. No, I mean, it would be nice. No, a mind filled with shame cannot learn. So no shame on you. Thank you again for everyone that's joined us so far. We see you, Kristen and Margaret again, and Ronlyn. I see you, Zane. Thank you so much. I hope I'm pronouncing people's names correctly. I don't want any trouble. But yes, let's see. Where shall I take this next?
Well, kind of on the topic of doing this in the middle of a pandemic, one of the after the features of that was that we didn't get an opportunity to meet in person until 4:30 in the morning on the morning of the film shoot. So what must that have been like?
That was cold.
It was very cold. Christophe will tell us about the cold.
We'll let Christophe tell us about the cold because, yeah, he took it the words. He looked good. The brother looked good though. But and Ronlyn, she said, "What are the logistics of shooting in DC and what barriers?" Ooh, wait, Jacob, they can get you into all of that. Okay, Gilbert. Yeah. Okay, so look, I'm excited because Bridge, they are so organized. From Jacob's folders in our collaborative drive to the production schedule. I love you, Jacob. To the production schedule, to scouting. I mean, as an artist, I could not have asked for a better group of people to work with. Honestly, it was amazing. And so we did meet in real life for the first time at 4:30 that morning, and we were behind masks. So we didn't even really get, there were no hugs. I think most of us here, at least me and Jacob, were huggers. And so we wanted that, but there was none of that. So I will say that working in a pandemic, I look forward to being able to fully embrace you all and truly love on you for the collaborative efforts that we put together. Gilbert, did you want to go ahead? Okay, Ronlyn asks, I'm worrying about the logistics in DC. And
yeah, that's a great question.
Even if you want to tap into how it was supposed to be one weekend again. Go ahead, tell it. Oh, so much.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It is very complicated to try to shoot either still photography or video photography in Washington, D.C., which is something that we learned rather late in the process, to say the least. I remember the moment about maybe 2 weeks at most. It was like the last weekend in January, I think. Jacob and I were at work together, sharing a meal and brainstorming about this project. And we sort of looked at each other and went, oh my God, do we need permits to do this? And this was like 2 weeks before we were supposed to shoot, and we entered this like absolute spiral of internet research and phone calls and emails. And fortunately, we got, to say the least, we got very, very lucky during this process. The cinematographer, Tyler, who unfortunately is working tonight and not able to join us, we called him first, and he was like, oh, yeah, you do need permits to do this. And DC is notoriously like the most difficult city in the United States to film in because of all the security protocols around the monuments and federal buildings and all the important people that are, wandering around these spaces at all times. The short answer to this question is, like I said, we got really lucky. We discovered in the weeks leading up to our shoot that Black Lives Matter Plaza is designated a protest/free speech space within DC. So generally speaking, if you're filming anything on public property in Washington, D.C., you do need to communicate with the D.C. Office of Television and Film to get a permit to shoot with more than just like your cell phone or a point and shoot kind of camera. But because this space has been designated, like I said, as a free speech and protest space, we were allowed to shoot without a permit, and we were not bothered by police or anything like that. which was great. Again, extremely lucky that we discovered this right up at the last minute. And then the other question would have been the National Mall, which is where most of the filming took place. Until very recently, you did need to have permits issued by the National Park Service to shoot anything on the National Mall, but there was a recent court case that ruled that this was not legal to require permits to shoot in this public space. So again, we discovered just days before we arrived that in fact we did not need a permit as we once would have. And this had just happened, I mean, a matter of weeks ago, this court case that had ruled that we did not need permission or permits to shoot on the mall. Yeah, so logistically, we got so lucky. It could have been an absolute nightmare. It may have resulted in another postponement, but again, we got really lucky. And like Nina said, Jacob is extremely organized with his drive folders, and we worked really hard on a schedule, and all these kinds of things made it run as smoothly as possible. Just feeling really lucky and grateful that it all worked out the way that it did.
And we did have some great help. The day of on the mall, we had our very own park ranger assigned to us from the National Park Services. Even though we didn't have a permit, they're called the permit monitor, and they were sent out to help us, and they helped us find bathrooms that were open and clean, and places to be that we could record. They would go through all the different rules because there are certain areas where things are under copyright and you can't record there, or you could get video but no audio, or it can only be a certain number of people. So we had a lot of help from our park ranger buddy. He's you can catch him at the end of the credits.
Yes. That is so great. And you're absolutely right. Our personal park ranger was awesome. We honestly could not have asked for, and Ronlin said it was like synergy. It was all divine. It honestly was, down to the weather. Because we had originally planned to shoot on a Friday, right? But I think there was rain in the forecast, and it had been snowing. There was a ton of snow that week that DC got, right? Yep. So we were this close to pushing to the next week, or look at the 19th. Let's look at the next week. And I think Christophe finally spoke up and was like, I think we should just kind of stick with the plan, and then see how how it goes, and just go from there. And we could not have. You said what?
He kept us from spiraling again.
He did, because we surely nearly panicked. Like, okay, as if another weekend in February couldn't bring more snow. But the weather was perfect. The sky was perfect. And literally the clouds for the next storm moved in as we were wrapping up. It could not have been more perfect, honestly.
So the weather was perfect for the film. Yeah. Okay. So
for the lighting.
The weather was perfect for the film. However, BTS behind the scenes, I was freezing, okay? It was 4:30 in the morning, and it felt like it was 4 degrees outside. And has been, well, for me, I didn't listen to my wife. I didn't bring a coat, didn't bring gloves.
We try to save y'all. We do. We try.
Man, I had a hoodie on. Well, I think what it was.
You had a poet life hoodie. I guess
I had a poet life hoodie on.
Coats, right?
It was 4:30, so I woke. I don't think I slept that night. Because I didn't want to oversleep.
Right.
So I just stayed up, and I think I took a 30-minute nap, and I just darted out because I'm in Maryland, so I had to drive 45 minutes to get to DC, and I didn't, did how DC is, one-way streets and everything. So I wanted to make sure I was on time, and I enjoyed myself for the first 4 hours. And after that, I was just a popsicle the entire time. Enjoyed the conversation and just watching the team do their thing. And it was just this is absolutely amazing. We're actually producing a film right now. And the views we were able to see in DC, we watched the sunrise over the Washington Monument and the reflecting pool, and oh my goodness, all of those views in the film we were able to see in real time.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it looks even better in person than it does in the camera just can't do the feeling of that place justice. So sorry you weren't there, Scott. How was the weather in California that day?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked not to see those views, but I tell you the weather was great. So sorry, Christophe.
He could go out in a hoodie.
It was funny because Alan was like, Scott, do you want to be on the text chain for the shoot? And I was like, I mean, sure, that's 1:30 in the morning for me when you start shooting. So like, it's not even unreasonable for me to not sleep and hang out, but I just like turned off notifications and woke up to like, hey, we did it. And I was like, oh, way to go.
Go team, go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's one of the cool things about the process, right? And this particular artistic team, I was thinking about this, Nina, back a little while ago when you were talking about your original inspiration for the piece, you know, that Ray Charles' America the Beautiful was the sort of musical idea that you had in mind. And that was where like I started in terms of trying to like get to the finished product. But I knew that when I finished my job, right, and I got to the end and I put the double bar on and the score was over, that I was going to hand it to Bridge and that y'all were going to take it and make it what it needed to be next. And all along the process, like, you know, Nina's final recording, and then the way that like I saw the production schedule come alive, and, you know, Christophe's like ideas as a producer and sort of organizer in terms of how we should go about conceptualizing this project, that there was always like so much trust that I had in everybody who was working on it to know that no matter, as long as I do the best I can with my part, I know I'm handing it to the people who can do the best with the next thing that's coming. And so, you know, it did not fail to disappoint. Like it was amazing to get to watch. Okay, I scribbled some things, go. And then this is what came out of it. It was like, yeah.
And you know, Scott, one of the things that I think I love most about what you were able to compose is that I know we really didn't want it to be America, a version of America the Beautiful, right? Like that would have made it all the way cheesy, you know, and very cliche. And so it was amazing to me to be able to bring, to find inspiration in that, yet we didn't make it that. You know, I think we kind of toyed with the idea of, okay, listening to America the Beautiful in like my headphones type thing in Black Lives Matter Plaza, but the way it all came together from that inspiration to what we have musically is just amazing to me. And so I would like to ask now, because I know the time. Okay. And again, if you all have questions, please put them here. But what, if I may, what was your favorite part of the project? A lot of people are telling me they love the picture, the view of us all looking at the Washington Monument, and Crosslee's head is on Alan's shoulder, and we're looking awesome. But what was your favorite part of the piece in general and the poem specifically? And what did you take away from this process and from the work itself?
Do you mind if I go?
Go.
Okay. The poem. Nina, you remember when you started and you were brainstorming within yourself and you presented the first part of your poem to all of us, right? And loved the first part, but I think I then gave a constructive criticism, a critique.
Yeah.
And because as we know, we've heard the poem, right? The first part is, oh, America, you're beautiful. All right. And so then I was just like, okay, but where's the part where we actually talk directly to America, and right, and so it was amazing to see in the film how you laid it all out with all smiles, and then it just switched. And even our videographer, our cinematographer, Tyler, sorry he couldn't be here, but Tyler, the way he switched with you, right, and took the camera directly. Now you're facing the camera and talking to the people. So it's no longer just a beautiful film. It's all right, let's have a conversation. That was my favorite part right there. And what was the other question, Nina? The second part of the question.
You pretty much wrapped it. You went straight from the piece into the poem, and then I guess what your takeaway from the...
Yes, my takeaway is my appreciation for Bridge, right? You said initially you all wanted to kind of step back, but I appreciate you all for not stepping back, but you stepped forward, right? But even though you allowed, right, myself and Nina to kind of represent and be the voice, but you really stepped forward, and as opposed to stepping back. And we get the questions a lot from our allies and our potential allies. The question is, how do I become an ally? How do I step forward? And the answer is to do what you all did. So racism is a cancer, right? And when we fight cancer with poetry, we're asked all of the time, so how can I be there for someone with cancer? Okay, so just to go with me. And so the person with cancer just battling whatever that situation is, they say, just be there. Just listen, because you can't relate to what I'm going through. So just listen, just be there. And that's how I likened what you all have done. You're here for us, and you gave us a platform. And with that platform was your ear, you listening, right? And so truly appreciate that ear, that platform, and totally proud of this project.
Whoever would like to go next. Go that takeaway.
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm copying, stealing from Christophe here, but I do want to say that if I had to choose a favorite part of it, I think it would be in the process, working with you, Nina, like as you brought up earlier, on the poem, on finding those ways in which there were gems in there that you had written that maybe you didn't even see them rhetorically the way that you had put on the paper as this beautiful piece of genius, and just like finding a way to speak that in a real powerful way. And in that process, as you know, I took, like, those words are like printed on my heart right now. Yeah. And spending time marinating in those words and viewing the world a little bit through that perspective with that lens on has been something really meaningful and a big point of growth for me in this process.
Very good. Go ahead. I think I'm having some delays over here. Pardon me, guys.
Okay. I think my favorite part of the process was the actual film day. Anybody who knows me would be surprised that I was like jumping out of my skin at 4:30 a.m. like, all right, let's do this thing. Woohoo, I got my coffee. I got like 500 donuts. Let's do it. I was just so excited. And the whole day, I mean, it was a long shoot. faster than I thought it would be, which was nice, but still long. But the whole time, just like being able to see what we're doing in real time and imagining Scott's music with it and Nina's studio recording with the parts that weren't live, like I could picture that happening as we were going through the day. And so I was just like walking on sunshine that whole day. I was so excited. And then I have to say my favorite part of the poem are the lines, and also where they correspond with the film. High atop Mercy's billboard, we be the light. It just, that says it for me. That's it. That's the thing. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's
I think,
good. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Ellen.
I've gone back and forth on my favorite part of the film, but I after thinking more about it, it's the ending, and the way the music, the shot of Nina. So the film, we storyboarded it a different way. It was supposed to end with Nina delivering that last line on Black Lives Matter Plaza, which we did include, that little America looking right at the camera. But it ends with a shot of you at the Lincoln Memorial, just after looking up and reflecting, and after going through the whole poem, and that, especially that middle section, and finding your resolve. And then it ends with you, this amazing shot that was not planned. It was just Tyler and you, and you just turn and walk off into a fade. But it is, to me, it so captures that essence of there's more. The story isn't finished there, right? And the work isn't finished there. Like, you're going off to go do, and the way Scott supported that, ending with just it ends with that motive, which starts America the Beautiful, the oh beautiful, but it kind of ends there, and it's unfinished, as a way to usher in, okay, the what's next part, and that has to be my favorite part. The way all of that just came together organically was just really beautiful.
Yes. Margaret actually said, Scott, were you going to add in?
Oh, I don't know. All of a sudden, I just became big.
It was you. I was like, oh.
I'm just going down the line, putting people on the spot.
But
go ahead.
You go ahead, Nina, for a second.
No, I was going to read a comment. You go ahead. And I'm sorry. Well, go ahead.
I know which comment you were going to read, because I was actually going to say that's one of my favorite things. Like, Margaret says, don't take this the wrong way, but like almost didn't even notice that there was a choral performance going on. And I think that's like really high praise, actually, because I think, you know, when Bridge talked to me about doing this, you know, my fear is, especially as, you know, white guy composer, is like that it's going to be all about the music. Look at how awesome my music is. I know Nina's singing some words over there, but like I did that really cool dissonance. Everyone loves it, right? And I mean, I'm super nerdy about music, and I get into those kinds of things. And I was really wanting to make it so that it was such a platform for the words, not a detraction, but something that lifted up the poetry and made the poetry live and shine. And I feel like the film really does that, which is great. And I think it's one of my takeaways from the project, actually, is that taking a back seat doesn't mean not being involved, right? It's like you can be leading by putting others in the leadership role. You can take a step back to allow other people to take a step forward, but you didn't like take a step away. You're still right there and supporting and lifting up, and having that opportunity has been just like the best, you know. And I think it's a great lesson for the opportunity that an arts organization in particular has here, to say, you know, when you think of choral music in America, unfortunately, we tend to think of a relatively white male field. And, you know, if we're organizations operating in that space, we can make space to change that. And that was something that this project really did intentionally, and how that made everything about what we did better, you know? And I think that's the lesson, is that like opening up the process to people, especially who might not normally have been involved in a choral project, like made it a better one. And like, how much richer are we all for that experience? You know, all of us as artistic collaborators, but also the audience that gets to see that, and the art that gets created because of it. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, is like, what a great vision for the way we should be working together in the first place, right? And so I think even the creative process for the project was a model of what we hope the project is about. And so like, let's do more of that. That's something that I just feel so lucky that I get to do it with you all. So that, yeah, Margaret, don't worry. I'm not upset at all. Couldn't be happier.
Gilbert, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts about my favorite parts of all this. I think really the most powerful experience about this for me is sort of what like Renee said in the comments, which is thinking about being the light more. If you know me personally, my personality is not always super warm and fuzzy. I'm not always very welcoming or like, you know, willing to put myself out there, especially with strangers. And I think that working with Nina and listening to Nina and Christophe and all of this team has really made me be more intentional about every action that I take and every thought that I have. On that note too, like what Christophe was saying about racism being a cancer in America and how we fight that cancer, I'm almost grateful that this project took a much longer time to complete than we initially had hoped, because every time we meet and every time we text and every time we sit down to think about this, it's a reminder for me to think about what work I have to do to be an anti-racist in America, and not just reject racism, but actively work against it. And when I founded Bridge 6 years ago, you know, I've always sought to inspire some kind of social change, to look at music through the lens of the times that we're living in. And, you know, it's been a big realization for me during this project to know that like my perspective on what I'm experiencing in the world is not the same as what everybody else is experiencing. And so I'm incredibly grateful to have felt so plugged in to what Nina had to say, to offer our time with her, to feel like we're meeting some of the goals that I had but didn't understand when I started doing this out of school 6 years ago. There's so much work that's left to do. And I think about like one of the first meetings we had, and I think that this quote came up in one of our trailers, which was, "Where am I in this?" And this is from Nina. "Where am I in this? What work do I have left to do?" And just that simple statement has really resonated with me throughout this entire process. It's been a really challenging mantra to keep, and to keep reminding myself that there is work to do, that we're not done. And I'm sad to see, in some respects, that we're not going to be meeting again to film another movie necessarily tomorrow, or that we're not going to be getting together to edit, or go through lines of poetry together. But the sheer repetition of the amount of time that we spent working on this has been really powerful for me, just to continue reminding myself to be the light and to keep working, that there is no action that can be too small if you're going about it with the right intentions to be the light in the world and try to affect change in a meaningful way. So that's my favorite part. I know that's not like technically a part of the film or the day, but that's what I've spent a lot of time reflecting on during these last 8.5, almost 9 months that we've been working together.
That's perfect, Gilbert. It honestly is. All of you and the ways you've recalled this process, excuse me, and the work. I'm super grateful. Again, I can't say it enough how grateful I am for even the opportunity, and for really, for me, this really helped put. First of all, as a creative, it's caused me to sit down and really give thought to my feelings and my own thoughts. Even the analogy of the drunk uncle is something that came to me back in like 2015. Like that thought has been with me for that long. I was literally in Richmond. I was working in Richmond, and I used to just kind of, I like to walk the history trails and kind of check things out. And I think it was around the time Michael Brown had been murdered. And so I was just really heavy in my feelings about, about all the things. I was already deep into thought about all of this. And on top of that, I was in a church with, a lot of it were really diverse, but my pastors are older and white. And so, and I've explained this to you all before that, that caused a lot of conflict within me. It really made me struggle. And so I remember this one time I was downtown near Belle Isle, near the James River in downtown Richmond. And I thought about like, God, America, like I'm literally out loud, like, America, I love you. And then I thought about it like how my father growing up, my own father was that drunk. He was an uncle, he was the alcoholic. While he wasn't violent and abusive, thank God, I thought about just the grace that I've been able to give him in the ways that I've grown up with him. And so from there, that's where the idea that like, America, you're like this drunk uncle, right? Like that person who always causes problems at Thanksgiving dinner, but no one is big enough and bold enough to speak up to him. No one wants to really address it. Everyone knows he's the problem, right? And knows that he's no good for our lineage, but no one wants to confront him. No one wants to do that type of work, right? Because it's uncomfortable. We don't want to make things more difficult than they need to be. Like, let's just have our nice dinner and go home, right? No. And so it's amazing to me the way even back then holding on to that idea for so long and finally having the opportunity to sit down. And then when it came back up, I remember I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember this line and this fits perfectly right here. And so just having the space to really even unpack my own feelings that have been just turning and turning for years, and to finally put them into form. And I'm already working on next is something around the Declaration of Independence. So I see that this is not the end of this. You all have really helped to ignite a new flame within me on the journey to holding the safe space for us to have these conversations and grow together. Ronla said, oh, that drunk uncle part coupled with the zoom in was so powerful. Yeah, they did that thing. They did that. And then when they started adding the B-roll, the extra footage, and when we were talking about the raising of the kids and y'all put that little baby KKK boy in the... And I've seen those videos before. Like I know that this is reality. I know that this is our history, but to see it coupled with the words and the music, y'all produced the mess out of this. And Alan, I don't know if you want to take over from here, because I'll let you all know Alan is our main producer. Yes, he's our executive producer. And so he took all of this footage, and not just him, everyone else, but it's my understanding that you were actually the one slicing and dicing the footage, yes?
Slicing and dicing, yeah. Lots of computer time, screen time. My screen time percentage was up, but yeah, I could not have done it alone. Like if it was just my ideas, it would not have flowed. The great thing about this project was what Scott brought up earlier, that each person had the space to step up, and only through that, kind of refining ourselves. Lots and lots of revisions and debates on what should go where, and but only through that process were we able to get the final product. So it could not have been done with any one of us. What it is a result of the combination of all these things. So go team.
Go team, go.
Oh no, you're giving me. I'm gonna start twitching.
Having some flashbacks.
That's the video edit.
Wow.
One of our favorite shots of Nina. And just the bottom are just all the clips stacked on top of one another. The darker ones are other options that we were considering, and we'd go back and forth. And that is the cleaned up, tidied version. So that project was even more cluttered when we were in the middle of it. But oh yeah, you're giving me flashbacks.
PTSD.
Yeah, PTSD. There's the audio.
Oh, yeah.
That is amazing. Look at it. So this is the audio with the rainbow.
I like how we're all leaned in here. Like, wait, who's that?
I like what Mary suggested. She said, "Have you all thought about submitting this to a film or spoken art festival?" And Mary, we have a lot of ideas, right? This is really, it may seem like the destination, but really it is the beginning, because this is the reason why we produce this, is to start the conversation, right? Not just to put a project out. That is not why we did this. You know, we want for this to be a tool in classrooms and just conversations in general, right? To be a conversation starter. So if you all, have resources and outlets, connect with us. The website is AYB, you're beautiful, aybfilm.com. And we would definitely love to connect with you, because I think this really needs to be seen by so many people, not just because we produce it, but because, again, we want to start the conversation if the conversation hasn't been started already. I think for me, the biggest part, when I see films that address things that happened in the past to African Americans and people of color, I always think to myself, okay, are we the only ones watching this? Right? Was this for us, or should it be for others?
Yeah.
Right? So we can get past the I didn't know that you all were dealing with this, and how did you not know?
Right.
So we want to make sure that statement or that question is dispelled, and here's our declaration through this project and others that are out there as well. So I just wanted to say that, and this is only the beginning.
Yeah. For sure. I just like to point out my brother Josh Lagan. He says, not to brag, but my sister is dope. Thank you. It's my real life big brother, so I had to go ahead and make sure we saw that comment. No, thank you so much, big brother. I love you. And you're absolutely right, Christophe. This is really it is my hope that we do push people and give them a nice little nudge In schools. Again, I've seen so many people who are afraid to have these conversations. I will say this quote until my dying days, every week when I get a chance, or every chance I get a chance, I should say, is that a mind filled with shame cannot learn. And so there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to unlearn. And so again, these safe spaces that we need to let people know that there's no shame in the ways that we've all been conditioned in America to accept this as it is, right? We've all been conditioned in very different ways, but conditioned nonetheless. And so we have to leave space for people to be able to take a look in the mirror, holding up the mirror, as James Baldwin says, hold them, America, and Kendrick Lamar now. He's also a prophet of our times, I'm convinced. But holding up a mirror to America and saying, look, I need you to see who you are, okay? Don't look away. Especially, I know that I deal with this, especially in the faith community and in the Christian community. A lot of people are like, the Lord says the vengeance is mine. No. Don't use the word as an excuse for inaction. That's what we cannot do, okay? Like, just because you recognize it, that doesn't mean, oh, okay, I see what's happening, but that leaves me from having any responsibility in it. If we are to be the change that we want to see, we have to find the ways to do the work that will bring about the change. But first, my question, what I want to leave people with is step back, pause. Anytime you find yourself in a conversation around exactly, Josh, our faith without works is dead. Say that, sir, preach. But no, anytime you find yourself on Facebook or in any cyberspace or even in real life where you find yourself offended or uncomfortable around conversations around race, I really want everyone to just pause, take a breath, and then ask yourself, why does this? Just start with this one little question: why does this make me uncomfortable? Start with that. And then build from there. Okay, now, and do the work. It will be uncomfortable, but trust me, living this life is a little more uncomfortable. Trust me, it's gotten very uncomfortable over the years. I'm 41. I've had a lot of moments where it's been uncomfortable. So it's okay, right? No one, I'm not about that shame life by no means, because again, no one can grow from shame. So that is one of the main things I want to leave our guests with, and listeners with, and viewers with. So if anybody would like to add that on as we try to wrap up, because we could definitely do this all night for sure.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with everything that you just said. And I'm just so grateful to have been a part of this project and to have been able to hold up a mirror to myself in the process as well. And that's, like you said, not always comfortable, but it's something that's necessary. And it is racism is, we often have this sort of idea that we want to talk about race problems or racism, let's say on the news media, and then you bring on a bunch of people of color and you ask them, why is racism happening? You're not making the racism the people that look like me are. So in a way, from a perspective, it's like kind of our thing to fix too. And you can help, it's not your job to give us, all this free instruction of how to better realize our lives. But we're so grateful that you did choose to share your words with us, because I think your art and your just unfiltered expression and perspective is how we have the tools to then say, look at myself, look at the choices that I've made, look at the relationships that I have, what is baked in there, recognizing the past, looking forward to the future, what is there that I have to do. We keep coming back on this phrase, where am I in this? Yeah. What do I have left to do? And that's been, I think, one of the most rewarding parts of this. And I know that we are all so incredibly grateful to you, Nina, for having shared this really personal and vulnerable work with us and allowing us to live in it with you, and bring it to fulfillment. So thank you.
I'm gonna miss you guys. Look, we gotta do this more often. Okay,
we'll have a reunion when we're all vaccinated.
Right. Exactly. We'll do it in real time.
In real life.
In real life, right? That would be great. And I look forward to the places where this piece takes us all, and the conversations that we have. Again, if you all have any if you would like to collaborate with us or join with us in this conversation directly, then you can always reach us at aybfilm.com. I need to say it aloud a few times so that it flows. I've been typing it all this time. But just think, it's America, Your Beautiful Film. And it is, again, you can read the words there. We have information about all of our organizations there where you can learn more about us, and you can reach out to us and find us on all social platforms. So I think that's about it, guys. We do have a link here. So if you have not watched the film, then by all means, please take time to do so. We highly encourage you to do so, and share it. Again, this is not just a matter of us wanting you to share this cute project that we put together, and because the sunrise was so great and Christophe's hoodie was dope. No, we really want this to be an opportunity for us to move forward in becoming the America of our best and brightest imaginations. Because all that we're in was created from the imagination of someone. So now we just got to make sure that we tap into those best ideas, right? Does anyone have anything before we'd like to add? And Jacob, otherwise, I'll let you go ahead and take us out home.
Well, this is our very first one of these events, so thank you for bearing with us as we had some technical things happening throughout. I'm learning this restream thing as we go, so thank you for bearing with me personally. On behalf of everyone, I would just love to thank you so much for participating with us in the comments and for watching and for sharing with your friends and family. We are going to drop a link into the comments right now, I believe, Crossley. There it is. You can watch it on Facebook, and you can also watch it on our YouTube channel. And we hope that you'll consider sharing it with your friends, with your family, with some famous people. All we need is like one famous person to share it, and then it goes crazy. Anyway, thank you again so much for being with us, and have a wonderful evening.